Hey guys, how's it going, RedMaster? And welcome back to the Cards and Castles Casting Conflicts. Got a good one lined up for you today, so I don't want to drag on in this intro too long. Let's go ahead and take you guys directly into match. Alright folks, and welcome back to another episode of Casting Conflicts here. Got Jump taking on Tweakin, of course, the Crusader Viking taking on the Viking Ninja. Set to be a good match up here. And of course, with me as always, Slash, how you feeling about this matchup?
I already see that Jump is starting to brick. I talked to him about this beforehand, and Tweakin said, "I hope you brick."
Oh, jeez.
And right now, I'm seeing that Cleric is the first. It's the first unit to come out.
Oh, no, you didn't. Alright, so, and of course, yeah, like Slash said here, pretty rough start for Jump opening up. I mean, what do you do here? Coin out in the Cleric? I mean, even if you coin out the Cleric, you have to hope that it heals up the Cleric itself, so that way it can avoid this minor takedown. And meanwhile, Tweakin could have a couple of things up his sleeve. I mean, I think the benefit here is that Tweakin is already running pretty low on resources, but that could easily change. You know, the Lumberjack draw, his next turn draw, and yeah, it's going to get worse for Jump here.
I would have coined into Church there because of the healing that would have put on Castle, and then additionally, Cleric could trade with Lumberjack, and then even if the heal went on Castle, then Cleric would be healed up by in turn by Church.
Right. So we're going to see Jump, of course, now at this point. He's going to have to throw out either Church or Cleric here. He's making the choice about Cleric. I'm not sure what he wants to... Looks like he's going to hit the Minor as a way to avoid giving Tweakin some additional draw. And it actually successfully heals Cleric, despite that not mattering, as you mentioned, or as we saw. Kunoichi got played, and I think that's going to be pretty beneficial to Tweakin.
I think Jump there was hoping that the healing was going on Castle, so that we could get a total of 6 healing, or, well, 5 because it was Castle health healing on face, but now the Konoichi can trade for free and get only only 3 healing on face.
Which is completely negated by the Minor. Right.
Yep.
So, we'll see Tweakin, of course. Win setup. Pulling the castle away. So, of course, a little bit of Nord trickery on Tweakin's side, although we do see that Jump has that as well. Breaking another wins. Not what you want to see, especially considering that he needs units at this time, not spells.
Absolutely. He should be playing that in front of his castle, simply so that way he keeps that back summoning square open, and that building should be killed anyway.
Right.
Just looking at the long run, at least it's going to be getting 3 heals off if you don't kill it this turn. And so because of that, the wasting the hit on Castle is just not worth it. I don't see a way back in too terribly well for Jump. There is a whole lot of freeze in this deck.
Right.
That could bring him back in, but overall, until he gets something like a Rat King off, or some cheaper option off,
it's going to be difficult, is what you're kind of motioning
absolutely.
At here. Yeah, and even if he plays a Rat King, you mentioned that back summoning square, it would have been very beneficial to play that Rat King on that
I feel
spot.
so bad for Jump.
And he bricked another armory. Oh, dear. Yeah, this is not what you like to see. I mean, but when you think about it, it's just, you know, the way the cards fall. It's not even that, you know, he's being outplayed here. He can literally do nothing.
Absolutely.
So we're going to see that Hand to the Saint played off to keep Jump in this match. See if he can continue to go. I won't be surprised at some point if Tweakin starts to get very aggressive here and go for things like, well, Armory is, you know, for one, maybe Lightning Blade to kind of just punish this. I'm surprised. Okay, well, that makes sense. Moves Kunoichi, and then, of course, Lumberjack comes in doing more damage. Didn't kill off the Church, though, so, of course, that will be a little more healing, but, yeah, it's not going to matter. And a cloak with no units to play.
Cloak with no unit.
And yeah, with that, that is going to be game number 1. Quite a disappointing one, if we're going to be, or at least if I'm being honest here. Would love to see Jump have some more units to kind of interact with. It seems like he just drew a whole lot of stuff he couldn't use.
Yeah, and it always hurts to brick. It's like watching a It's like taking away candy from a fat man.
I thought you. If I don't, and I don't know if that was the same reference you used
I
previously.
think it was.
All right, but with that being said, let's go ahead and go back to both the players and see how they're feeling after a tough match one. All right, boys, a very brief match one to say the least here. I guess we'll probably talk to I know the first word that comes to mind is victim, but that just doesn't feel right considering the certain circumstances we're in. But anyway, Jump, how did you feel? I guess that's really the only question I have for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a curse in this casting conflict series. Same thing happened to me with my other deck that I went on to place at 3,500. So it's just bad draws. Curse of the casting conflicts, what we're gonna call it.
Damn, me and you now give off a curse slash.
I'm so sorry, Jump.
But
Let's hope you don't break the next game,
I
man.
guess let's go
Oh,
on the
good.
other side
It's
real quick before we jump into that next match. Tweakin, how are you feeling, watching the plays just kind of go by, not really much happening? Did you have any sort of thought as to, should you be more aggressive or should you hold back? What were your kind of thoughts in that regard?
I was definitely confused. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know if he was getting the right cards or if he just had too high of a cost cards that he just couldn't play. So the next match, in this match, I didn't really know what deck he was running because we only saw the Cleric. And with Vikings and Crusaders, like, you always run Cleric. So I didn't really know what to do. So I was just like, all right, if the opportunity's there, might as well keep hitting the castle. I don't want to retreat because my units are already, I think after the Cleric hit, I think all my units had 1 health or.
Yeah, we were mentioning that a Rat King could potentially clean up the
Yeah.
board and kind of bounce him back a little bit, but we never saw that happen.
Yeah, so I mean, with that point, it would make no sense for me to just retreat and kind of give him some breathing room because I mean, any unit could, or any lightning, like a warrior or any sort of lightning, can kill all those units. So I decided to just keep on the pressure, keep knocking down the castle when I can. I don't really want to retreat because my units, I mean, any one unit can knock out any of those units. So I just decided to keep hitting the castle. And when I saw the church go down, I had an opportunity to either, and it kind of felt like a decoy. It kind of felt like, all right, I'm going to put the church down. He didn't want to put the church down because church is pretty good. And I felt like he just put it down to kind of like save his castle, kind of like draw me into hitting his church and kind of save himself one turn. But I thought that it's only healing one turn. It's only healing 1 HP per turn. I also have a lightning blade in my hand. Do I want to use the lightning blade to get rid of the church, or do I want to save it until like he busts out a big unit, like on turn 6 or turn 5 or turn 7? So I decided to kind of just keep it hidden, keep it there, and kind of just chip away. And then when I drew the armory, that was the big drawing the armory when I had the lumberjack, the dwarf knight, the shadow,
Right.
the little ninja girl, the Kinuichi, and then the wizard.
Kind of the
That
exclamation point on it all.
Yeah, that was like, all right, now
Yeah.
this is when it's good to use the lightning blade next turn because I have bigger buffs, I have more units on deck, and it'll be kind of hard for him to come back.
Right. But yeah,
It played it very well with the aggressive nature, and you're right that I did put down the church just as like save me for one more turn and then I'll draw something real, and that never happened. But well done.
Tough match indeed. But let's go ahead. Hopefully, match number 2, a little bit longer, a little more competitive. Let's go ahead and jump into that one right now.
And so I'm not pulling one that many turns in a row is around 1 in 10 billion.
Yikes. But I mean, what numbers to start off game number 2 with, right? Game number 2, folks. Of course, bring in, excuse me, the Warlock Crusader up against Tweakin's Viking Ninja. Of course, starting off a little strong here with the Vicious Sunflower, a little stronger than his last game, which is always nice to see. And I think we might be seeing some kind of Last Will potentially. I'm seeing Tarius Files, Sunflower. Any thoughts here, Slash?
This looks like it's going to be a very classic Last Will, seeing as how we have Sunflower, and most modern Last Will decks don't run Sunflower due to its slowness. Yeah. I expect to see Arcanon General then for sure if he is running Sunflower, and then 3 Andrews 3 Generals. Um,
Right. So
and it to be a less control heavy deck.
okay. All right. So fair point. We do see Jump's got 2 Tarius files in hand. He's actually probably going to consider throwing out one of them, it looks like. Which, not sure if that's going to be the go-to play here, considering Darkbender is available to you. But interesting how Tweakin's going to go for the more aggressive wins here, knocking off the Priest in the process and getting himself a little bit closer. I do like that Witch Bolt he just drew, though.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned with the issue with Winds of the Nord is if you don't have a follow up on that turn, then it's very difficult to maintain board control ever in the match.
Yikes.
But Jump just didn't have any way to grab any board control from Tweakin playing Nords, and so it was just a net gain for Tweakin that turn.
Right, and we do see the takedown of both the Darkbender and the Wizard. I mean, Tweakin had to expend quite a bit to even take out that Darkbender, which could give Jump a little bit of an edge here, I think. I mean, probably considering Witch Bolting the Elephant, he does, and of course moves in with the Sunflower. I mean, why wouldn't you, I think, at this point. Yep, there he goes, smacks it on face, follows up with the Taurus, follows in front of Castle, question mark? Let's see where he goes here.
He should be playing it in front of Tweakin's spawns instead, because that's just going to be another target for something like the Thunder Strike that Tweakin so loves that could be hitting Castle and multiplying any kind of chain lightning damage that's put on it.
Right.
Oh.
So kind of keeping it away from his own castle is going to be more beneficial, you're saying here.
Absolutely. That, and also putting it on Tweakin's castle
Gives him less
gives
space
you
to
a
work
safe,
with.
absolutely, and a safe square there in the middle, which will have an attack on castle. Very interesting, though, that Tweakin doesn't have any response
Wow.
with 6 gold. This could be a very clean win here for Jump then. If he gets Andrew up and rolling and gets a Flamestorm and another Tyrius Files down, it could be a very, very quick game number 2 we see here, Red.
Could be a very opposite effect from what we previously saw. I mean, it would, we saw Jump bricking hard last game. Could this be the game that Tweakin ends up bricking and causes the series to be tied up here? We're going to see a more aggressive Andrew push as Sunflower takes up a new position, blocking off one of Tweakin's spawns here. I am a little concerned, though, because with those cards Tweakin is holding in hand, I mean, like I keep saying, this is primarily an OTK deck. It's just one that's going to swing hard, swing fast, and then boom, your castle is gone. So maybe he's trying to set up for that. I don't know here, though. I mean, playing
I
Dwarven
doubt
Miner.
it. It's going to be very, very scary here in a second when that Andrew gets on face and he's playing Arcanon General behind it, which will be hitting off the Tyrius Files to get those 2 cheaper cards off.
Right.
It's not, I cannot see a feasible situation where I, as a player, would be okay with something like that happening to my castle.
Yeah.
Where I think, in my mind, that yes, this is beneficial to me.
Very true. And we're going to see General come up now. We're going to see... Personally, I would like it maybe a little higher, considering that this is a Thunderstrike-based deck, but we'll see if Tweakin prioritizes this little setup that Jump manifested, or if he goes for Andrew.
Jump just created a pocket there between his general and the Tyrius Files that a double freezing pillar could, in essence, permafreeze.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking that could be quite the threat later. At the same time, I don't think Tweakin runs... I don't think it's a very pillar-based deck that Tweakin has here.
Alright, I think he's got more of the materials to, create that big smack for a game ender here. I mean, I did see, or I do know that this deck is running Lunging Strike, and that's the one thing that I'm worried about here, because he could have a card that easily comes out of that spawn, Lunging Strikes, and is right up on that General's face.
I think that another scary option also would be something like Synchronized Strike, where
Right.
he plays 2, like this turn alone, he could play 2 Grudge Bearers, which have that big 5/5 slow damage.
Yeah.
But we're going to see a Mordock come out here instead.
No, I mean, okay, Mordock is fair. Jump does have that removal for it. We can see he can, either go for the 2 Witch Bolts or Dragon's Fire. Maybe, though, looking to generate some cards first. Yep, he will take that card route, pulling Flamestorm out of it, which is going to be big, especially with the way Mordock is at. And, of course, generating the Horseman means that it can't really survive a flame storm. How are you feeling though? Like, what should Jump's move here be? We see he does the Dragon's Fire. Would that be the move you had gone for?
Absolutely, keeping that general alive is paramount when you're getting another 2 draw off of it. That Flamestorm also can be much deadlier later when you have another Tyrius Files out.
That is true. Yeah.
While he could have put that down again, I think that it jumped board control that he can play slow and he can play happily.
Oh.
We can see the double Witch Bolt probably coming out here on Yenneroth to avoid any Thunderstrike or the fear coming out.
Or fear. Yep. I think fear is gonna be the better option for him. Save those
That being
burns.
that, there could be speed and then Thunderstrike coming out on Yenneroth. That's something you don't really ever want to see. Something like double Spear Strike speed Sheep
Right.
is a game ender right there.
And I think Jump is playing the safe approach here and not Witch Bolting because, of course, giving Tweakin more tools in this case is not what he wants to do. Because each piece of, or at least each card that you give Tweakin could be another piece of that OTK puzzle that he's trying to fit together. So we are going to see Kunoichi and Grudgebear make an appearance. No Synchro Strike here, which is, I guess, good for Jump in this case. Yenneroth moving back to that same spot here, and I think this is where we might see that setup.
I think it's going to be stopped pretty handily here by Jump with a Salhar Rider Flamestorm or Tyrius Fire Salhar Rider Flamestorm. It will also reveal where the Kunoichi is, or Kunoichi.
Right.
And it's going to be also a whole lot of damage coming from that Andreon face after the 2 Witch Bolts hit Yenneroth.
Alright, so we're looking like we're going to potentially go for that Flamestorm. Yep, double Tarius File Flamestorm goes ahead, gets played. Draws 2 more Flamestorms. And picking
That's
up
the
another
game.
General. You're doing the math here. Yeah, that would end the game here. He Flamestorms twice. I think he's trying to piece it together here. Right? Flamestorms twice, Witch Bolts Yenneroth, and that's an open castle.
Salhar Rider Flamestorm, Metal Witch Bolt.
Yeah, he sees the Witch Bolt. Yep. Which has gotta be what he's gotta go for, right? Yep. Time's ticking. Come on. And there's the game.
Clean game from Jump here in this.
Very clean. Very nicely done, too. Bringing out the last will here. Effectively taking out this Grudge OTK deck. I don't know if that's like the name for it. I don't know if he's got a name for it. But, yeah.
The Tweakin deck.
The Tweakin deck. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump back to the players. See how they're feeling after a very, much more lasting match number 2. Gentlemen, very nicely played game number 2 here from both sides this time around here. Jump bringing out the, I guess I'll let him explain his the deck that he bought out to counter Tweakins, if you want to go ahead.
Alright, so it was kind of a classic red-yellow last will deck. It's got, I think it's got a little bit of my own twist, but it's such an old deck that I don't quite remember exactly. But the reason I chose that one was because I noticed in the first game that Tweakin's running a lot of possibility for Chain Lightning, for Thunder Strike, for countering a Swarm. So I knew I didn't want to bring Swarm decks. A bunch of early game, so I needed something that could survive and could outscale. So I felt like this classic last will deck had all those elements. And
I mean, it certainly performed well. I mean, we saw from that match, it pretty much did what you wanted it to do.
Burn, especially in the forms of Dragon's Fire and Flamestorm, are great tools against that deck, I feel.
Right. Very true. And on the other side of things, Tweakin, how did you feel that your deck was matched up to a classic last will? Is it something that this deck is capable of doing well against, or did this turn out to be more of a challenge for you?
Didn't like it. Didn't like being matched up against. He's got a ton of burn. I knew Flamestorm was going to be in there, Dragon's Fire, and either Blue Firebolt or Witch Bolt or both. So I was hoping that I would draw more of my hidden units to kind of make them have to use the Flamestorm and the Dragonfire early, where you won't get that much value.
Right.
I kind of had the same thing as Jump, but not to the extent of his. But kind of like mid game, where I had a Yarheem and a Yenneroth and a Mordok, and I was trying to like flash some cards when it was on turn 6, and I had no plays for turn 6 or turn 7, and I was trying to flash my cards to kind of give off the appearance that I was deciding if I wanted to play a card or not.
Okay.
I didn't want to just end my turn too quickly because it would show that I have no moves. I wanted to give off the appearance that I'm having a tough choice about which I wanted to do. So maybe that would buy me some time. Maybe that he wouldn't go on a full aggression, knowing that I don't have any cards in my hand. So it was just kind of like a mind trick, you can say.
Yeah.
But it didn't really work. I would have liked to had more plays in the mid game.
Yeah, we noticed about turn 6 you had completely passed the turn, and we were kind of surprised by it, considering that we knew your deck had more things to play based on the last game. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a surprise there, and one that I think really kind of shifted the game personally, because he was able to get things like, I believe, the Andrew up more because of that. Repositioning the Sunflower to do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just don't think that was a good moment for you anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about the Sunflower because he only has one attack, and so I wasn't really too worried about that. What I was most worried about was him getting out his Andrew and me not having any ability to reach him or to
Right.
damage him, and he could just sit in the back and beef him up. And my cards, although it's good and it has a lot of movement buffs and chain lightning, there's not one unit outside of Yenneroth or maybe Mordok that can completely take out an Andrew by itself. I have to rely on multiple units or multiple cards like Chain Lightning or Freeze. So when he was able to buff up that Andrew to not even like maybe even like a 4/7, it was going to be really hard for me to take him out, and not only take him out, but also after taking him out, having a unit on the board as well. I would probably be able to take him out, but I would have no units on the board, and at turn 6 he had complete board dominance, and at that point it was hard for me to come back.
Right, true. Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, a much longer lasting game number 2 than the first, one that we were very excited to watch. But that does leave room for game 3 now. We're moving it in. Both of you are at 1-1, so let's go ahead and jump into that game number 3 and find out who takes the series. Alright, folks, and here we are back for match number 3 here. Of course, Jump bringing back the Crusader Viking up against Tweakin, who bought in the Warlock Ninja. Great to see that, he's switching it up despite having that initial victory in the first game. I love it when players decide to kind of switch it up, show something new here, and that's what we're seeing with Tweakin do.
Oh, Jump. You should not have thrown that Rat King out. He is having the worst luck tonight.
Yeah, in terms of this deck, we're going to see, hopefully we don't see the same sort of brick nature. I mean, we're seeing Cleric, we're seeing Sentry Golem. We do see the Rat King. Okay, alright, a little bit better here.
What do you think that Tweakin is bringing? Because those are the colors for a classical Awaken deck and a classical OTK. But knowing that it's Tweakin, I doubt that he brought Awaken table.
Right. Well, there's Masuda, which kind of gives off that Awaken vibe. Honestly, with Tweakin, I don't really like to judge, or at least with any deck, really. I don't like to judge unless either A, I'm seeing their hand, or B, I'm piecing together the cards that they've thrown out here. And it's very early to kind of decide. Dire Badger, though, points to Awaken. I mean, you got Masuda, you got Badger in red-purple. I don't really see it going other ways aside from that classical Awakening. But, I mean, Tweakin can surprise us.
The only other option I could see here is stealth-based one-turn kill. But even then, I don't think that's going to be a very good counter against
Something
what
that
Jump
can
is bringing to the table.
something that can just freeze off a massive area, effectively negating the stealth, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Something like Freezing Pillar put there in the center would effectively take out those 2 Badgers for free. And then you could follow up with a very, very scary combinations later on in the match.
Right. Well, we'll see Jump armor up. He cuts off his rat numbers with that play. Of course, not putting it where the cleric is negates the fact that he can get an additional rat. Not sure it's going to bother him too much, though, I can imagine. I'm curious to see how he's going to take this turn, though, because with 2 Badgers already on Tweakin's side of the field here, one of them being stealth, it can get a little scary for him.
If this is a Crate Brick style Awakened deck, we're going to see something like double Dragon's Fire possibly come out from Tweakin. If it's more aggressive than that, we might even see something like Flamestorm come out. Both of those could be very, very scary for something like Rat King when it's played.
Right. Oh, interesting. We do see the Badger in the back, so we did not advance it at all, really. Instead, looks like Tweakin's going to go ahead, be aggressive with that burn, killing off the armory, throwing out the imp. And yeah, this looks like it's more of an Awakened deck with every card that he's kind of bringing out, with every unit he's showing. It just goes to more of an Awakened deck, in my opinion.
I believe Winds shows where invisible units are also.
Yes, Winds does pull. So Winds ideally could bring things up and, reveal them. Granted, I mean, he has right to reawaken the Badgers to reactivate their stealth. I'm not sure if he's going to do that now, though. I think he's probably going to go for the reawakening when he's got more of that OTK potential, like you were kind of hinting at that he might have.
Jump needs to, if not this turn, next turn, freeze one of the Badgers, because this is getting extremely scary when there is a possibility of reawaken occurring. If those Badgers are reawakened, you're getting 2 8/9s coming out on the board. And if both of those hit face, I would argue that there's not much Jump can do to stay into the game with something like Headmaster and then Headwood coming out,
Right.
which would just burn off the castle for free.
Very true. And we do see the Badger, or at least the second Badger, moved up, kind of parallel to that bottom Badger. We're going to see if maybe Tweakin goes for the Cleric takedown. This could actually telegraph if Tweakin's deck is more of that OTK style. If he kind of, goes for the elimination here, it kind of telegraphs he's not afraid to lose the Badger. But if he holds it back, that kind of shows me that he might be wanting to do a bit more with these Badgers, like we keep saying. So it really, I'm curious to see where this turn goes for him. Oh.
I think I would have traded here regardless, however, just because looking at this board, I still feel fairly comfortable with trading every single unit here.
Right.
And there's Headmaster.
Headmaster does make an appearance here, making Jump's Rat King a little probably a bit less effective than he would have liked it to. He could still play it, and he kind of should still have an idea of where those Badgers are. And Lumberjack does help a little bit. My question is he going to be able to really contain all the stuff that's on face right now and still be able to make it out? Because I think if he shuts down these Badgers, he still has a good chance of, coming back in this game. We see things like Kraxus in his hand, for Pete's sake. So it looks like the Rats are going to make their move there. Lumberjack going to do the finishing blow.
I think he's going to have to freeze along the bottom. Yeah, even with Cleric, he's going to have to freeze here to avoid taking damage.
I think the question is, I think he should place it behind the Badger, even though it does leave that pillar exposed. He can freeze off the Saurus and the Badger.
Absolutely. It makes it also very scary if anything is pushed forwards. It makes it so that way you have to take a bad trade with that rat.
I don't like how he's just kind of letting this time go.
I think he's going to try to maintain this pillar for multiple rounds and possibly get a Kraxus off on that Badger.
Makes sense if he does decide to go for that. My problem is, though, now you've given Tweakin the opportunity to reawaken that. The Cleric probably would have actually been able to kill it, but I think the issue that he would have had is that he doesn't want to waste his limited castle healing resources. I mean, we know he's got Church, we know he's got Cleric, we know he's got one copy of Hands. That's all his healing. And if he loses those, he's not bringing his castle back.
I think also, however, the biggest threat with Awakening is that if you give it room, it can OTK you very, very quickly. Late game Awaken can OTK you from being only one square in front of the castle or one square diagonal of the castle on either side with something like Shodan or say multi-strike on that golem.
Right. Well, now we're going to see Jump faced with a very tough decision here. He can generate some trades with the Craxus, but my question is, where does he go to block? What is he? What do you think is the optimal play here for him to make? I mean, the pillar is keeping that badger in place. I'd say get rid of the imp so you can protect that pillar. But looks like you're going to go for the takedown of the Masuta above, possibly going for Cleric heal on the temple. I mean, or it's himself really. It's going to be a fight between getting the temple heal or getting the Cleric heal.
I would have played Winds of the Nord there and first moved the rat there right in front of your temple. You would have been able to trade against the Masuda and the Headwood. Not Headwood, Scaris. And then additionally played Cleric to hit Badger, which would have done 3 damage to Badger and traded with your Mischievous Imp.
Right. Well, we'll see if it pays off for him. Tweaking a little low on resources here, going for a second Imp after clearing the Cleric with Darkbender. If he can get this Golem off, it's going to do a little bit of work for him, I imagine. I assume, though, well, we'll see if Imp comes in, because that leaves the Imp open for a chain takedown.
I think that Craxus is going to be extremely deadly next turn.
Right.
And very, very valuable to Jump simply because of that extra draw potential.
Indeed. So we're probably going to see him use it. It even draws a second one. That's got to be big for him.
The issue with blue-yellow is not the power or the draw. It's simply the gold and how many expensive units are in both of those factions.
Right.
If Jump has a lot of cheap units in his hand and he gets something out like Craxus, we see something like a Syrian Cultist come out, it's very, very hard to come back against that. Come back against that hail of just extremely powerful cheap units that later in the game, when buffed by Temple, are extremely potent.
Very true.
I think Jump's going to be able to reach that and is possibly looking at closing out the second game. Though against Awaken, there is always massive burn potential and massive OTK potential with Shodan.
Right. Or even, like you said, Headwood burn could be massive.
I think that Winds of the Njord here are going to bunch up all of Tweakin's units, and it's not going to be a fun for him.
But we'll see if Jump can make that positioning happen. It's one thing to play the Winds of the Nord. It's another to give yourself that winning lightning potential. And of course, I mean, we see that Jump's got a lot of resources to work with anyway. Compared to Tweakin's 2 cards, he's got 2 wins, an armory, Craxus, Cultists, a whole lot of things he can work with.
Absolutely. The one thing I'd say he's missing right now is a lot of spam units, something like Hassan City Guard, where you get 2 units out of it, and additionally you have that reawaken, not reawaken, but Mystic Journey potential on it.
Right.
That freeze is going to be massive, especially because it's going to be buffed by the Temple, resulting in Chain being basically multiplied onto all of his Tweakin's units anytime he has to fight back against that freeze, because normally with freeze your first objective is to just get rid of it as soon as possible. But here, it's just not an option.
I think we're going to see Tweakin potentially lose out here. We're seeing double meditation on one of those rats, not even reawakening it afterwards. This might be the sign of the game here. We did see the respect get thrown out by both players.
Yeah, I don't see a way back here for Tweakin. I don't believe there is any card he play. Yeah, and that's the writing on the wall right there.
Oof. A little fancy lightning for you folks at home to kind of send you off happy. But yeah, that's going to do it for Tweakin here. And it looks like Jump picks up his first series win here for Casting Conflicts.
Yeah, very, very good for Jump, and he's showing what else he has in his hand.
Oh, jeez.
You know,
He's getting
no
back
matter what
in
he
for
hits
the
with, he
brick.
wins. Yeah,
All
possibly
right,
a little salt coming out from it.
and there is the final blow, giving Jump the series win here. Very well done. I think that was a beautiful turnaround for the deck here, with how badly it treated him in game number 1, and to see it come back very strong in game number 3. You just love to see it.
Absolutely. I was scared for him at the beginning. I thought he had a potential to brick a second time, but his cards came through for him this time.
It did. How about we go over to both players, though, and see how they're feeling?
Absolutely.
All right, and with that, Game 3 has closed out. Jump taking the series win here in, or at least his first series win, I believe, so far
That hurts.
at
oof.
Casting Conflicts. I guess we'll start over with Tweakin on this one, because I think the biggest question that at least we have, the mentality behind the Ninja Warlock. What was the goal of the deck? What did you kind of try and bring out with the deck? Any thoughts?
Oh, well, he was running Vikings Crusaders first game, and I knew there was no removal for if I was able to get a Awakening building down, which unfortunately I did not. So my thought process is if I was able to get, I don't want to say the dojo. It's
It is dojo.
It's
There's
the-
two
the sleeping
dojos.
dojo. The sleeping dojo. That's right. If I was able to get the sleeping dojo down, I think I would be able to kind of overpower him with not only draws but with headless and badgers, and kind of just beef up my people so much that he wouldn't be able to counter it. Unfortunately, I didn't draw any of it. Mid game, where I had 2 badgers near his castle, and he was able to get a Rat King off, and then the Frozen Pillar. The Frozen Pillar really put a road bump into my plan. Not being able to use that Badger after buffing it up and wasting a Headless on it kind of put me in a tough spot. And after seeing that, it kind of stopped my initial push. And after looking at my hand, it didn't really have a lot of cards that I could play. I had 1 Meditation and 2 Rat Kings. So I decided to kind of push back, kind of play more defensively, hoping that I can draw something that I could use, maybe like a Sleeping Dojo or a Headless or something, because with those Frozen Pillars around, and he mentioned outside of the Casting Conflicts when we were doing our interviews that he ran oh gosh, I need to update the Cloak of Ice. The Cloak of Ice, that's what I'm talking about. The Cloak of Ice. So I know that if he's running Frozen Pillar, he has to be running the Cloak of Ice as well. So I was worried about that. So I was trying to space out my units where he couldn't get that much value for it. I didn't want to clump up my units, and I was trying to hopefully draw a Shodan. And unfortunately, I didn't. I wanted to have a Shodan or a Headwood and kind of use both Meditations and a Rite of Awakening on it and get that kind of 1-turn OTK on him. But unfortunately, once he got that Frozen Pillar down and other freezes, and what the cherry on the top was the 2 poles on turn 10, the 2 poles and the Cloak of Ice on my 2 Dark Benders. That play, I mean, you just gotta clap. You just gotta clap. That's all you gotta do. You just gotta clap and just be like, well done. That was just like, oh god, I did not see any of that coming.
Absolutely. It's very, very difficult to counter that Crusader Viking late game when there's a just such a large hand and so much power in it.
Hmm.
Very true. And I guess on the other side of things, Jump, how are you feeling? Not only taking this game, but your first win for the Casting Conflict series.
It's always in a tricky spot when you know your opponent has the opportunity to pull out a counter against your deck. You don't know what they're going to play. They get a choice, you don't. And so a bit of a disadvantage to start with, but I know the deck I'm running doesn't have too many weaknesses. That being said, I think Tweakin did a great job choosing a deck to counter it. If he had gotten his game plan to run a bit smoother with card draws, it could be very devastating.
And I mean, speaking
But
of card draws, we were a little worried for you in the beginning there too. We were hoping that we didn't see a repeat of game number 1 with
Yeah.
some of those opening hands looked, but clearly not the case. So you must be feeling pretty good about that.
Right. Yeah. Well, on the flip side as well, like I know Awakening isn't the fastest deck,
Hmm.
and if my deck gets to turn 9, turn 10 range, it basically wins. It's kind of got that War Party-esque feeling where you get far enough in the game, I just outscale anything. So it's got it could go either way, really. I didn't immediately see Awaken deck and think, oh no, I'm screwed. So I was ready to go for a more drawn out match and eventually got it with that turn 10 play. I knew once I had the turn pass back to me and I had that in hand, I was like, yep, that's it. There's nothing that can counter this.
Hmm.
Right.
I
Well,
think if I was able to get the 2 badgers to stay alive, or at least not have the 1 badger frozen, I think I could have done something else. But the fact that both those badgers died without getting a single hit on the castle,
was rough.
it was rough. It was hard to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Frustrating for sure.
Hmm.
with that being said, Slash, you got any words for competitors here? Any last questions you want to throw out?
Good game from both of you, and nice comeback Jump.
Yes, great comeback. Great comeback.
All right, and
Thank
with
you.
that being said, folks, let's go ahead and throw it back to Future Me to close out the video. And with that being said, guys, I hope you did enjoy this edition of Casting Conflicts. Let us know what you thought of the matches by leaving your thoughts down in the comment section below, and while you're down there, if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that like button, share with friends, and of course, subscribe if you are new, or haven't done so already. It's the best way that you can support us here on the channel by, subscribing at no additional cost to you. And yeah, with that being said, guys, that's gonna do it for me for now. So until next time, stay gaming.